Zara Matthews sat on the edge of her narrow apartment bed, an ivory envelope trembling in her hand. Gold foil lettering declared its contents plainly: Paris International Dance Company. Her pulse thundered as she recalled the countless hours she had devoted to perfecting every movement. Dawn rehearsals under flickering studio lights, blistered ankles wrapped in tape, and endless repetitions until her muscles screamed for mercy. This invitation was the culmination of her lifelong dream, the opportunity dancers spent years clawing toward, and now it lay before her, so close she could taste it. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Noah, the caller ID read. She hesitated, then answered. His familiar warmth washed over her like sunlight. "Hey, Zara. What's up?" she heard in his gentle drawl. I got the audition invite," she stammered. A pause. "That's amazing," he finally said. "But are you sure you want to fly to Paris right now?" Zara's chest tightened. She pictured the upcoming tech summit, Noah's big moment. Investors, venture capitalists, press, all counting on their partnership. He was the visionary founder. She was his supportive anchor. Tonight, he needed her applause, her presence. Paris. Or Noah. Her heart broke in two. She rose and slipped into her favorite ballet slippers, the soft leather whispering against her feet. In the full-length mirror, she executed a flawless pirouette. Pirouettes she had perfected in every city studio, from Lagos to London. She imagined the grand stage in Paris, spotlights igniting like stars, a polished floor beneath her toes, an audience holding its breath. Yet here, in her cramped living room, the walls pressed in on her ambition. Her reflection blurred as she rehearsed a series of jetés, each landing echoing like a heartbeat. The pale moonlight slipped through the blinds, casting long shadows that danced alongside her movements. She drifted through a sequence of arabesques and develops, the cool air of the lobby stinging her lungs, urging her onward. Back in the apartment, Noah's footsteps echoed on the stairs. He returned from an investor presentation with news of a term sheet, millions in funding secured. He found her breathless, eyes shining with sweat and possibility. "You look incredible," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You always make me proud." Zara forced a smile. "I'm proud of you too." He swept her into a hug. "Promise me you'll help me finalize this pitch. Then we'll revisit Paris, promise." She closed her eyes, tasting the bittersweet promise. She loved him. She always had. But as his arms held her, she felt her own dreams slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. The envelope sat on her dresser, unopened and unmade, its seal unbroken. That night, Zara lay awake, listening to the city's lullaby. Distant sirens, the hum of passing cars, and the steady beat of her own heart filled the silence. In her mind, she replayed her grandmother's words. "Your gift is not a burden to hide." She traced the seam of her pointe shoes, remembering the day she first danced on that tiny stage at age 5, eyes wide with wonder, spirit alight with possibility. Under the silver glow of the moon, Zara realized that in choosing love, she had forsaken the brightest spotlight she had ever known. And as the envelope lay forgotten in the darkness, her soul trembled with a question. When passion and promise collide, which one will she choose? Zara Matthews awoke before dawn, the soft glow of streetlights filtering through her apartment windows. Her muscles ached from the previous night's rehearsal, but sleep felt like a betrayal. Rest was a luxury she could no longer afford. She slipped into her dancewear and padded down the hallway to the building's lobby, which was dimly lit and empty at this hour. Carefully, she warmed up across the cold marble floor, executing tendes, plies, and controlled develop movements, each one fueled by a cocktail of regret and determination. She imagined the Paris studio once more, soaring ceilings, mirrored walls, and music pulsing through the air. Here, between concrete pillars and flickering bulbs, she fought to keep that dream alive. Her pointe shoes, worn thin at the toes, bore the battle scars of ambition. A lone janitor rounded the corner, pausing at her graceful arabesque before hurrying past with a polite nod. Zara exhaled, savoring the echo of her own strength. Minutes later, she changed into her waitress uniform, black slacks, white blouse, and the cafe's logo pinned to her chest. She kissed the walls of her apartment goodbye and hurried down the stairs, her stomach knotting with dread. At Morning Bloom Cafe, she clocked in just as the first customers filed in. The manager, Mrs. Delgado, greeted her with a tired smile. "Early again, dear? You're burning the candle at both ends." Zara forced a grin. "I want to be there for the breakfast rush." She grabbed a stack of menus, smoothing them beneath her palms. The lights flickered on, and patrons filled the tables. Business people clutching newspapers, students hunched over laptops, and couples savoring coffee and conversation. Zara balanced plates of avocado toast and eggs Benedict as she weaved between chairs, her mind dancing between choreography and coffee orders. Between service, her phone buzzed with an email notification. Final audition materials due in 48 hours. She pressed her thumb against the screen, recalling how she and Noah had promised to support each other's dreams. Today, she was supporting his by serving lattes. Paris waited, silent and patient. At noon, she snuck away to call her dance company. The director's voice crackled through the line. "Zara, we've been expecting you to confirm. I trust you've thought it through." She bit her lip. "Yes, sir. I can't make it." The silence that followed carried the weight of thousands of rehearsals. "Be well, Zara," he said softly, and she imagined the loss in his eyes. Back at the cafe, she polished glasses behind the counter, her reflection warping in the glass. Each glass felt like a shard of a life she was trading. By afternoon, her feet throbbed from standing, and her back ached from leaning over tables. She forced herself to smile at every "thank you" and "have a nice day." That evening, she returned to their apartment to find Noah's makeshift war room in high gear, whiteboards covered with revenue forecasts, open laptops streaming investor updates. He greeted her with bright eyes and a triumphant grin. "We did it," he exclaimed, pulling her into a hug. "Series closed. We have the funds to scale." Zara's heart swelled with pride for him, even as it cracked for herself. She poured 2 glasses of wine, one for him, one for her. He toasted their partnership. "To us." They clinked glasses, and she pretended her wine didn't taste faintly of ashes. Later in bed, she lay awake in the dark, free of the day's demands but chained by her choices. The envelope from Paris lay on her dresser, still sealed. She traced its edge with her fingertip before turning away. In the silent night, Zara realized that love had demanded her sacrifice, and the cost was her own luminous future. 3 days later, Zara found herself pacing the rooftop terrace of their apartment complex. Lanterns swung gently in the evening breeze, casting warm amber halos across the flagstone floor. She inhaled the scent of jasmine from a nearby planter and smoothed the skirt of her wrapped dress, a futile attempt to feel composed. Noah emerged from the stairwell, his face alight with anticipation. He carried a small velvet box, its edges slightly worn. "Zara," he began, voice trembling with excitement. "I know the last few weeks have been hard on both of us, but I want to show you how much you mean to me." She offered a tentative smile, heart thudding. He got down on one knee, opening the box to reveal a slender rose gold band set with a single, luminous pearl. "This is a promise ring," he said earnestly. "Not an engagement ring, because I want us to choose the right time together. But I promise you I'm all in. I believe in you, and I believe in us." Zara's chest tightened. She reached to take the ring, her fingers brushing Noah's. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She rose slowly, the moment swirling around her like a dance. For a heartbeat, she felt seen and cherished, Noah's devotion shining as brightly as the lanterns. He slipped the ring onto her finger. "Whatever you need, whenever you're ready, I'll be here." He rose and embraced her, arms warm and reassuring. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. That night, they made love beneath the soft glow of lantern light, their bodies intertwining as if to stitch together the fraying edges of their relationship. Zara savored Noah's warmth, the intimacy a balm to her anxious heart. But as dawn crept through the windows, doubt seeped in. Zara lay awake, her fingers tracing the smooth pearl. It gleamed with promise, but a promise unfulfilled, lacking the permanence of a true engagement. She recalled the envelope on her dresser, the audition that could launch her into the world spotlight. She remembered the sacrifices she had made, the Soul Point shoes, the empty studio memberships, and the weekend spent serving coffee instead of rehearsing. In the quiet solitude, Zara realized that a promise ring, no matter how heartfelt, could not mend the gulf between her aspirations and her reality. Love's words were gentle, but her dreams pulsed in her veins, demanding life. She rose, slipped into her slippers, and tiptoed to the dresser. Under the soft light of dawn, she held the envelope once more. The pearl on her finger caught the first sliver of sunlight, gleaming with possibilities. Zara closed her eyes and made a silent vow. She would honor the promise she made to herself, even if it meant rewriting the promises between them. 2 days later, Zara summoned the courage to visit the dusty studio she once called home. The building stood on a quiet side street, its tall windows grimy and its sign faded. She hesitated at the door, hand hovering over the brass knob. Memories flooded her, the echo of music, the smell of rosin on the bar, her practiced reflections gliding in the mirrors. She entered, the hardwood floor creaking beneath her feet. The waiting room's chairs, once lined neatly for students, were now stacked haphazardly against the wall. In the rehearsal hall, a single spotlight illuminated a solitary bar. Dust motes danced in its beam like tiny specters of what once was. Zara approached the bar and placed a hand upon the smooth wood. She dusted off a nearby mirror with the edge of her sleeve. In the reflection, she saw herself, leotard stretched over taut muscles, feet poised in perfect fifth. She executed a plie, then a graceful tendu, the movements so ingrained they felt as natural as breathing. For an hour she danced alone, pirouettes, sautés, grand jetés. Each leap carried the weight of lost opportunity. The classes she missed, the auditions she canceled, the nights she chose Noah's startup over her own rehearsals. She danced to mourn and to reclaim a fragment of herself. When her legs burnt and her breath grew ragged, she descended to the floor in a deep kneel. Tears stained her leotard as she cradled her knees, her chest heaving. "I'm sorry," she whispered into the empty room. "I'm so sorry." After a moment of silence, she climbed to her feet and gathered her things. A duffel bag containing her remaining dance gear, rehearsal notes, and the audition invitation. She hesitated at the door, glanced back at the bar one last time, then turned away. In the coming days, Zara sold her point shoes and costumes to recoup expenses. Each sale felt like severing a piece of her heart, but each dollar brought her closer to reclaiming her audition. Her apartment grew quieter without the hum of Noah's investor updates. She used the time to rehearse choreography in the living room, mapping out every sequence until it burned into muscle memory. At night, she reviewed her audition reel, fine-tuning each angle and frame. Her heart soared with each perfected pirouette captured on video. She realized something fundamental. Sacrifices mattered, but so did self-respect. The day she mailed her final audition tape, Zara stood outside the post office, the envelope heavy in her hand. She closed her eyes and whispered, "This is for me." As she dropped it into the mailbox, a sense of rebirth washed over her. She was no longer defined by Noah's dreams, but by her own. That evening, Zara returned home to find Noah engrossed in his laptop at the kitchen table. The glow of the screen illuminated his focused expression as he drafted emails to potential clients. She set her dinner basket on the counter. "How did your pitch meeting go?" He looked up, a victorious grin spreading across his face. "Just wrapped it. They want a full demo next week." He closed the laptop, extending his hand to her. "Come celebrate." She followed him into the living room, where he had lit candles and poured 2 glasses of wine. As he lifted his glass, Zara's phone buzzed on the coffee table. She reached to check it. An unfamiliar notification blinked from Noah's phone, left unlocked beside the couch. New message from Bree. Her heartbeat quickened. She glanced at him, then back at the screen. "Bree," she asked quietly. Noah's face tightened. "Just a client," he said. His voice held a note of defensiveness. "She's helping with our European expansion." Zara nodded slowly, accepting his explanation on the surface, even as suspicion bloomed in her chest. "That's great," she whispered. As they sipped wine, Zara studied his mannerisms. The way his smile faltered whenever he checked his phone. The way he stiffened when she mentioned Paris. That night, she slipped into bed beside him, the promise ring cold against her skin. She stared at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of his breathing, willing herself to trust him. But sleep eluded her. Curiosity pulsed through her veins. She crept to the living room and opened Noah's laptop. He'd left it unlocked. A browser tab displayed a message thread with Bree's profile picture, a sunlit cafe in Barcelona, a heart emoji beside her name. Zara scrolled through months of messages, casual greetings, dinner plans, heartfelt confessions. Her vision blurred. Bree's words were intimate. Can't wait to see you again. You're the most inspiring man I know. I wish you were here right now. Each line stung like a blade. Zara closed the laptop with trembling hands. When dawn light crept through the blinds, she confronted Noah. His face drained of color. It's not what you think, he stammered. She shook her head, tears spilling over. I saw the messages. He avoided her eyes. She's just a collaborator. But in that moment, Zara understood. Love could be professed in whispers and promises, and betrayal in screens and shadows. She rose from the couch, the audition envelope stirring in her bag, like a promise of redemption. As she dressed, she realized that reclaiming her dreams meant reclaiming her own worth, and no message, no matter how sweet, could deny her rightful place under the brightest spotlight. Morning light filtered through Zara's dusty curtains as she sat on the edge of her sofa, surrounded by half-packed boxes. Each cardboard container bore the scrawl of her former life. Costumes, do not touch. Props and leotards, point shoes. She traced her fingertip along the scrawled letters, the weight of what she was doing threatening to buckle her spirit. Today, she would sell the last of her dance gear. She carried a box downstairs, balancing it in the lobby like a package of fragile hopes. At the consignment shop around the corner, a bell tinkled as she entered. The owner, Mrs. Kamara, greeted her with a warm smile, but her eyes softened when they fell on the worn satin of Zara's first pair of point shoes. Bringing in more? She asked gently. Zara nodded, handing the box across the counter. Everything in there. Mrs. Kamara's voice held both sympathy and surprise. Zara swallowed. I need to raise funds, she said quietly. For rent, bills, Noah's prototype launch. The words tasted bitter on her tongue. Mrs. Kamara unsealed the box and removed a burgundy leotard spangled with tiny rhinestones, an audition costume from last season. Zara watched as Mrs. Kamara examined each piece. The pale pink tutus, the embroidered wraps, the leg warmers faded at the heel. It was a funeral for her past, each garment a memory she mourned. When the appraisal was done, Mrs. Kamara placed a stack of bills on the counter. I'm sorry you have to part with these, she said softly. But sometimes letting go brings new beginnings. Outside, Zara clutched the money and the audition tape still unwatched by her own eyes, her pulse thundering in her ears. Back in her apartment, she repacked the remaining boxes with the care of a caretaker preparing a loved one for a journey. She wrote studio memories on one, rejection letters on another, an acknowledgement of both triumphs and setbacks. That evening, Noah returned from the office, triumphant. His eyes sparkled as he unveiled his latest prototype, a sleek device promising to revolutionize his startup's market. Zara's heart swelled with pride at his accomplishment, the familiar rush of excitement he sparked in her chest. He offered her the biggest slice of celebratory cake, and she smiled as she accepted it. Yet, as she plated the dessert, her gaze drifted to the stacked boxes in the corner. Each one held pieces of her soul, her dreams, her identity. She realized she had boxed away the very essence of herself to nurture someone else's vision. In that moment, determination burned within her. She would claim back her dreams, even if it meant rebuilding from rubble. Late at night, she sat amid empty boxes, the consignment receipt folded neatly beside her. She pressed play on her audition tape, watching herself rise on point, limbs extended in perfect lines. Tears blurred the screen. Zara wiped them away and whispered to her reflection in the dark screen. This isn't over. Her dreams might be in boxes now, but they were alive, waiting for her to set them free. The clock beside her bed glowed 3:02 a.m. when Zara jolted awake, sweat dampening her hair. She'd been having the same nightmare for weeks. Her pointe shoes snapping like brittle glass, her legs giving way on stage, and a deafening silence from the waiting audience. She pressed her palms to her ears, desperate to drown out the silence. She rose and padded into the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water. The apartment was silent, save for the faint hum of Noah's laptop downstairs. He was working late again, always working, always promising one more milestone before he'd turn his attention back to her. Zara's throat constricted with frustration. She drained her glass and wandered to the living room, where her unopened edition letter lay on the coffee table. Soft moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the floor. Zara sank to the rug and retrieved the envelope. She ran her thumb over the seal, hesitating before tearing it open. Inside lay a single sheet. Received. We will notify you of the next round by July 15th. No congratulations, no critique, only a promise of news. She pressed it to her chest, the paper crisp against her heart. A ping from her phone broke the moment. A text from Noah. Can you help me review the investor's deck? Deadline in 2 hours. She thumbed back, sure. Just finishing something. Her hands shook. She stared at the deadlines that had defined her life lately. Paris audition by July 1st, Noah's pitch by July 5th, birthday by July 10th. All marching toward demands that weren't hers alone to fulfill. She slipped on her slippers and headed downstairs. Noah's desk was strewn with slides and spreadsheets. He looked up, bleary-eyed but pleased. There you are. Ready. He pointed to the laptop. Slide 23 needs a stronger hook. She opened the file and began offering suggestions, words she no longer recognized as her own. Each correction felt like erasing a piece of herself. At 4:30 a.m., they emailed the final deck to investors. Noah exhaled, relief flooding his features. Thank you, Zara, he said softly, folding her into an embrace. She traced the contours of his back, masking her irritation with a hollow smile. Of course, she murmured. Back in bed, Zara stared at the ceiling again, sweat cooling on her skin. She thought of the audition reply, still unopened in her email. Sleep eluded her. At 5:15 a.m., she slipped out of bed once more and logged into her inbox. An unread email waited from Paris. Congratulations. You're through to the final round. Please confirm attendance by July 20th. Her breath caught. This was it. A chance to reclaim her life. She imagined the spring floor stage beneath her toes, the crescendo of music, the hush of an enraptured audience. But as excitement swelled, guilt pricked her conscience. Noah was building toward a life they had promised to share. Could she leave him now? Zara closed her laptop and pressed her palm over her racing heart. 3 a.m., a time when dreams and doubts collided. She whispered into the darkness, I deserve this. The words reverberated through the empty apartment, stirring something fierce within her. She slid back into bed, her mind racing with possibilities. And for the first time in weeks, she slept with a smile. July 10th dawned with gentle sunlight, but Zara felt a cold knot in her stomach. It was her 26th birthday, an anniversary she once celebrated with ballroom soirees and impromptu studio jam sessions. This year, her calendar was empty except for one notation, review pitch results. The door clicked at 9 a.m. Zara peeked through the peephole to find the building superintendent, Mr. Ade, holding a small package. Delivery, he said, raising an eyebrow. Happy birthday. She blinked. How did you? He shrugged. Got a notice. He handed her the box and departed. Zara closed the door and sank against it, turning the package over in her hands. It was plain, brown, no return address. Inside, she found a single red rose, a card hand-lettered in Noah's script. Happy birthday, my love. Can't wait to celebrate tonight. N. Her heart fluttered, hope igniting. She fluffed the rose and placed it in water. Then she dressed for the day in a simple sundress and boots, determined to keep busy until evening. She stopped by the consignment shop to collect her remaining costumes, unsold items returned. Mrs. Kamara eyed her sympathetically. I'm sorry your special day feels empty. Zara forced a smile. It's okay. Tonight. Her voice cracked. He promised. Mrs. Kamara handed her the bag. He will make it right. Back at home, Zara sifted through her mail, bills, investor updates, and a stack of promotional flyers from Noah's company, touting their latest breakthrough. No other deliveries. No cake. No party. She snagged a granola bar and headed to her makeshift studio, where she rehearsed quietly for her upcoming Paris finals. Dance was the only place she felt safe from disappointment. Evening approached. Zara set the dinner table with the chip plates they'd collected as a couple, two mismatched patterns, symbols of their mismatched priorities. She lit candles and pulled a store-bought chocolate torte from the fridge. As dusk settled, she smoothed her hair and applied a light touch of makeup. Her phone pinged at 7 p.m. A calendar invite titled Investor Call, Urgent from Noah. She opened it, her stomach twisting. He needed her input, and she needed to remind him it was her birthday. She texted, "Looking forward to dinner tonight?" Minutes passed. No reply. The candles flickered. At 8 p.m., another text. "Can't tonight. Big news." "Sorry." Zara's chest tightened. She rose and blew out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. The rose wilted beside the torte. Tears welled as she cradled the cake, the flame of her hope extinguished. She sat on the floor, candle wax cooling on her fingertips, and felt the full weight of her sacrifice settle like stones in her heart. She whispered into the empty apartment, "Happy birthday to me," and resolved she would no longer wait for others to value her. Tomorrow, she would confirm her Paris attendance and start celebrating herself. 3 days later, Zara returned from a morning rehearsal with renewed determination. She'd RSVP'd to Paris, non-refundable airfare and hotel deposits paid. This decision ignited a spark within her, but also cast a shadow over her relationship with Noah. She entered their apartment to the soft click of Noah's laptop closing. He sat at the kitchen table, eyes fixed on his screen. "Morning," she said, setting down her dance bag. He offered a curt nod. While he prepared coffee, Zara peeked at his phone on the counter. A new message preview caught her eye. "Bree, counting down the days. Can't wait to see you." Her pulse fluttered. She glanced up. Noah's back was turned. Her hands shook as she lifted the phone. The message thread stretched across weeks, late-night texts, emotive emojis, promises of stolen weekends in Barcelona and Paris, etched in stark contrast to her uncelebrated birthday. She tapped the thread open, heart pounding. Bree's messages grew more intimate. "You deserve someone who appreciates you. I dream of your arms around me. Let's meet soon." Noah's replies were equally tender. "Miss you. Only 4 days until I'm with you. Never felt this alive." Zara's vision blurred. She lowered the phone into her lap. When Noah turned around, he found her staring. "What are you doing?" His voice was cautious. She handed him the phone. "Explain this." He swallowed, shoulders slumping. "It's not what it looks like." Her voice trembled. "It looks like you're planning a secret affair." "No," he insisted. "Bree is a consultant. We've had some late nights prepping the European rollout. That's all." Zara's eyes stung. "Is that why you never showed up to my birthday dinner?" His face went pale. He rose, approached shaky. "Zara, I'm sorry. I got caught up." She shook her head, tears slipping free. "You broke your word. You broke my heart." He reached for her hand. She recoiled, phone still clutched. "Please believe me," he pleaded. She stood, stepping away. "I believed in you, but I have to believe in me now." Her audition tape glowed on the coffee table, a beacon of her future. She turned toward it and whispered, "This is my life." With that, she walked out, the echo of her footsteps louder than any promise he could make. Noah sat alone at the kitchen table, the morning sun cutting through the blinds in harsh lines. His phone lay between 2 coffee cups, one cold, one untouched. The thread with Bree glared at him like a confession etched in pixels. He tapped the phone open, rereading Bree's latest message. "I wish you were here." Regret roiled in his chest. He'd lost Zara's trust, possibly forever. Down the hallway, Zara's dance studio door clicked shut. Noah ran a hand through his hair and picked up his phone. He dialed her number once, twice. Voicemail. He left a message. Zara, please, let's talk. I messed up. Call me. No response. By midday, he tracked her to a rehearsal space on the other side of town via business contact. He arrived breathless to find Zara alone in an empty hall, executing a flawless series of sautés. Her lines were exquisite, her focus absolute. He stood in the doorway, transfixed. She stopped mid-leap, spotting him in the mirror. Fear flickered in her eyes. She lowered her arms, chest heaving. Noah, she said, voice guarded. I'm sorry, he began. I never meant. She cut him off. You meant every word to her, didn't you? He took a breath. She's just a consultant. Her laugh was sharp. Just a consultant who makes you forget all your promises to me. He stepped forward. I love you. She shook her head. You loved me when it suited you. But when it was my turn, her voice cracked. You chose her. He reached out. She pulled back. I can't do this anymore, Zara said, clutching her bag. I'm going to Paris. His chest tightened. We can fix this. She pressed her lips together. And miss my chance. I gave up everything for you. I won't give up myself. He swallowed. Please. She shook her head and walked past him toward the exit. Outside, sunlight hit her like a benediction. She lifted her chin and took a step forward, toward her future, away from denial. Noah watched her go. The echo of her footsteps a reminder that sometimes, love is not enough to heal a broken promise. Zara stepped into Le Jardin Rouge, the rooftop oasis perched atop an unassuming building in downtown Austin. Lanterns and fairy lights dangled overhead, casting soft halos onto linen-draped tables. The night air smelled of jasmine and fondue, notes of citrus drifting from a nearby cocktail cart. She wore a deep emerald silk dress that hugged her curves, her hair pulled back to reveal graceful necklines. Yet despite the romantic setting, her heart pounded with anxiety. Tonight would reveal whether Noah's apology was as genuine as his promise. Noah appeared moments later, pulling her into a gentle embrace. In his hands was a small bouquet of wildflowers, lavender, baby's breath, and daisies. I'm so sorry, he murmured, voice thick with regret. She returned his smile, though a tremor of sadness lingered. He guided her to a corner table overlooking the twinkling city lights, seating her amidst flickering candles and the soft hum of distant conversation. For a fleeting moment, she felt hope bloom. They ordered a bottle of Chardonnay, plates of sea bass and roasted heirloom potatoes, and a salad studded with pomegranate seeds. As the waiter glided away, Noah reached across the table, intertwining his fingers with hers. He praised her artistry, referencing her viral dance film, his voice laden with admiration. Zara felt her walls soften. His words stoked embers of her former trust. They laughed over shared memories, late-night studio sessions, the day he first saw her dance in that cramped community hall. The moment felt warm, intimate, almost like reconciliation. Then the waiter returned with the check. As Noah removed his wallet, Zara glimpsed a flash of embossed letters. BRIANNACARTER. Her breath caught. Bree Carter. That name loomed in her mind. She forced herself to meet his gaze, questioning yet cautious. The waiter whisked the card away and swiped it silently. Noah leaned in, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Don't worry about it, he whispered. That's our European billing account. My partner handles expenses there. His tone was soft, but her doubts flared hotter. Zara nodded, swallowing the bitter pill. She forced a smile as they finished dinner. Buttery sea bass flaked at her fork, the wine's crisp acidity cutting through her unease. He recounted his latest pitch of success, his startup's growth chart glowing like a beacon on his tablet. She offered encouragement, her laughter brushing against the unease like a fragile salve. After dessert, he stood and offered his arm. She rose, smoothing her dress, heart heavy yet hopeful. Thank you, she whispered, feeling the night's magic begin to leak away. Outside, The city hummed beneath neon signs and the rumble of distant traffic. Noah slid his hand into hers as they walked, careful to keep the conversation light. For a moment, she let herself believe in his remorse. They paused at her doorstep. He kissed her forehead. "I love you," he said. She smiled, replied, "I love you too," and stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her, and she stood in the shadows, the memory of the card's name lingering like a specter in her mind. Unable to sleep, Zara crept to the dining table and retrieved Noah's discarded card from her purse. He had tucked it away after dinner. She read the name again, Brianna Carter. With shaking fingers, she brought it to his study and found him hunched over a laptop. "Noah," she called softly. He looked up, bleary. "Why did you use Bree Carter's card tonight?" she asked. His expression hardened. "You're imagining things," he snapped. "Stop creating drama." She realized then that her trust had shattered. Without another word, she turned on her heel, tears illuminating her silhouette in the moonlight. On a sweltering afternoon 2 weeks later, Zara's phone chimed with a new email bearing the seal of the Paris International Dance Company. Her heart leapt when she read, "Congratulations, Zara Matthews. You have advanced to the final round. The audition will be held in New York City on Monday, August 4th. Please confirm your attendance by July 25th. Her chest tightened with exhilaration. This was the moment she'd sacrificed so much to earn, a second chance to claim her place on the world's premier stage. Zara sank onto her couch, adrenaline surging as she drafted her reply. "Yes, I will attend." Within minutes, she secured a flight to JFK, reserved a room at a studio-affiliated hotel near Lincoln Center, and booked private rehearsal time in a Manhattan ballet studio. She messaged her performance coach in Paris for tips on conveying French choreographic nuances. Each confirmation email felt like a triumphant drumbeat, a reclamation of the life she'd nearly lost. That evening, she video-called her childhood friend Amina. "I'm going to New York," she exclaimed. Amina leaped around her small kitchen, shrieking with joy. "Zara, this is incredible." Tears of relief filled Zara's eyes, yet at the back of her mind lurked the ghost of Noah's recent betrayal. She hesitated before admitting, "Noah isn't supportive." Amina's brow furrowed. "He can't hold you back. This is your moment." The next morning, Zara laid out her passport and confirmation printout on the kitchen island. She heard Noah's footsteps behind her. She turned, smiling. "I need to talk about my audition." His face darkened as she showed him her confirmations. "New York," he said, voice tight. "Why now? You already missed Paris for me." Zara squared her shoulders. "I gave up everything for you. I deserve this." His eyes flashed. "If you go to New York without me, I can't trust you." Hurt and anger warred in her chest. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm reclaiming my life." She shot back. He closed his laptop with a thud. "Then we're done." Silence stretched between them like a chasm. Zara's pulse thundered as she weighed her choices, love or purpose. She glanced at her rehearsal notes, the sticky note board of flight details, the glittering audition invite on her wall. Clarity washed over her. Her dreams were non-negotiable. That night, she canceled their dinner plans and sent Noah a terse text. "I'll see you when I'm back." As she zipped her suitcase, a fierce resolve pulsed through her veins. This time, she would not let anyone, nor any romance, derail her destiny. Jet-lagged and anxious in her New York Airbnb, Zara woke before dawn with the city still slumbering beneath an ink-black sky. She rubbed her temples and reached for her phone, craving a message from Noah, even a simple good luck. Her lock screen displayed well wishes from her mentor Amina, but nothing from him. Frustration tangled with longing as she tapped into Noah's Instagram profile, fingers trembling. Instead of support, she found betrayal. There was a recent post by Bree Carter location tag Barcelona. A photo showed 2 plush lounge chairs beside a sunlit pool, palm fronds swaying overhead, rose petals circling a champagne bucket. The caption read, "Escaping the grind with my favorite person at Noah_Smith2Arts." Zara's blood ran cold. She clicked Bree's handle to scroll through their tagged moments, each more intimate. Candlelit dinners, seaside embraces, champagne toasts. Zara sank to the edge of the bed, the phone's glow stark in the dim room. Memories of the gaslight dinner flickered through her mind. European billing excuses, soothing words, her wilting hope. They had threatened their relationship if she pursued her dreams, then slipped away into someone else's arms. The betrayal cut deeper than any critique. She pressed her hand to her chest. Tears blurred her vision as she tapped Bree's story icon. A short video played. Bree and Noah strolling along a Barcelona promenade at sunset, his arm draped protectively around her. Bree leaned up to kiss him on the cheek. The screen wavered under Zara's trembling grip. She scrolled down, screenshotting every image, evidence that made denial impossible. Then, with shaking fingers, she FaceTimed Noah. He appeared bleary-eyed against the backdrop of a Barcelona hotel. "Zara," he asked groggily, "what's wrong?" She held up her phone, showing the screenshots. "Explain this." Panic flashed in his eyes. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered. "She's a client, just flying me out to finalize the deal." Zara's vision burned with tears. "Client retreat? You threatened to end us if I went to New York, yet you sneak off with her." He opened his mouth, but no words came. She pressed her lips together. "I gave up everything for you. Everything." The accusation hung in the air. With a single tap, she ended the call. Throwing the phone onto the bed, she stood and packed her dance bag with trembling hands. As dawn's first rays slanted across the floor, she vowed to never let anyone else define her worth again. The taxi pulled up at Zara's apartment building on a humid Austin evening. Clutching her suitcase, she felt adrenaline and heartbreak swirl through her. The flight from New York had been a blur of neon runway lights and tearful confusion. She stepped onto the sidewalk, the faint hum of her neighborhood greeting her like a ghostly memory. Each step toward the lobby felt heavy, with loss, with longing, with rage. Her fingers trembled on the doorknob before she finally pushed inside. The apartment lay silent. Noah's things remained exactly where he'd left them. Crisp white shirts draped over chairs, prototype parts strewn across the desk. Zara's breath came in ragged bursts as she climbed the stairs to their bedroom. There, a cardboard box labeled "Point Shoes and Costumes" beckoned. With a strangled cry, she ripped it open and seized a pair of old satin point shoes, the first she'd ever bought. In a fury, she slammed them against the dresser until they splintered, satin and wood raining onto the carpet. Her chest heaved as she kicked over the dresser, sending framed photographs shattering. In one, she and Noah smiled beneath the marquee of a Broadway theater. In another, they danced under confetti at her recital. She snatched musty acceptance letters from the Paris company and shredded them, letting paper confetti drift through the air. Her sobs shook the apartment as she hurled vases, overturned the nightstand, and gouged a poster from her first studio recital into tatters. A vintage recital poster ripped from the wall. She slashed it until its edges curled in defeat. The realization pounded like a hammer. She had traded her future for a lie. She sank to the floor amid the ruin, knees drawn to her chest. Exhausted, Zara dialed Amina's number. I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "I'm on my way," Amina replied. 15 minutes later, Amina burst through the door, eyes wide at the devastation. She knelt beside Zara, gathering her trembling friend into a protective embrace. "You're not alone," she murmured, offering a handkerchief and water. As Zara's sobs subsided into shaky gasps, Amina brushed stray fragments of point shoe ribbon from her lap. "He doesn't deserve you," she said softly. "Your dreams are alive. Look at how fiercely you held onto them." Zara blinked through tears, tracing the jagged edges of broken shoes. The wreckage was her darkness, and yet in it, a spark of defiance glimmered. By dawn, the city's first light filtered through the blinds. Zara and Amina sat amid the chaos, the apartment laid bare. Zara pressed a hand to her heart. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. Amina smiled. "Tomorrow we'll start anew." Amid splintered wood and shattered frames, a quiet strength took root. Noah staggered off his flight at Austin, Bergstrom International Airport, phone clutched in his hand and regret heavy in his chest. He'd spent 3 triumphant days in Barcelona closing deals, but his victories tasted hollow without Zara's forgiveness. He tapped her name on his screen repeatedly. No answer. He stepped outside into the muggy night and hailed a cab, heart pounding. The cab wove through familiar streets until it pulled up before their building. Noah fumbled with his keys, finding the main door ajar. He pushed inside, dread coiling in his gut. The lobby was dark. Only the emergency light glowed. He climbed the stairs, each step echoing in the hush. He entered their apartment to find devastation, shattered photos, overturned furniture, and the remnants of destroyed point shoes scattered across the floor. He swallowed, every breath tight with guilt. "Zara," he whispered, voice cracking. No answer. In the bedroom, her suitcase sat half-zipped beside an empty bed. The desk drawers lay open, stripped of her notebooks. He sank onto the edge of the mattress, pressing his palm into the ruined satin of her point shoes. Regret washed over him in waves. He grabbed his phone and dialed her. The call rang without stop. Finally, voicemail picked up. His voice trembled as he left a message. "Zara, please. I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. I love you." He replayed it, hearing his own remorse echo in the empty room. He considered chasing her across the country, but found himself frozen. Instead, he removed the promise ring from his jacket pocket. The pearl's iridescence seemed duller now, tarnished by his betrayals. He closed his fist around it, as though preserving their vanished vow. With one last glance at the wreckage of their life together, Noah rose and walked to the door. No cries of forgiveness followed him, no miraculous apology. He stepped into the silent hallway, the door swinging shut behind him, and with it, any hope of reconciliation. Zara's mailbox lay half-hidden among fading flyers and overdue bills when she spotted the parchment envelope, thick, cream-colored, and so out of place that her heart skipped. The return address read simply, "Bree and Noah Carter." A swirl of dread and disbelief coursed through her veins as she carried it upstairs to her apartment, every creak of the stairs echoing in her pounding chest. She dropped her keys on the console and turned the envelope over in her hands. Her fingertips trembled against the smooth paper as she broke the seal. Inside, a single card lay nestled in rose gold foil, an invitation to their wedding. Date, January 15th, 2026. Venue, Santorini, Greece. No RSVP date. Only the couple's united names and a minimalist silhouette of the island's whitewashed buildings. Zara sank onto the couch, the card burning in her palm. The words blurred as tears welled. 6 months from now. Half a year given to prepare for the celebration of her undoing. She flipped the card, searching for any clue of remorse or explanation. Nothing. Just an invitation to witness the union that had shattered her world. Her mind raced back to the months she had poured into boosting Noah's startup, setting aside her own identity, her own life. She had waited on him, supported him, loved him, only to be discarded. Now, they asked her to attend the ceremony of their betrayal, to watch him pledge devotion to Bree before family and friends. The cruelty slammed into her like a fist, an epitaph to her sacrifice. She crumpled the card and let it drop to the floor. Her chest tightened as memories surged. Bree's name on Noah's phone, the stolen Barcelona weekends, the gaslight dinner. Each memory picked at her heart like a relentless tide. She curled into a ball on the couch, knees drawn to her chin, and wept until tears ran dry. When the sobs finally subsided, exhaustion wrapped around her like a blanket. She rose and gathered the invitation fragments, stuffing them into her purse. She needed distance, from the apartment, from the pain, from the suffocating reminders of what she'd lost. Without fully knowing why, she headed to her studio apartment above the old warehouse district, the place where dance had once been her sanctuary. Inside the bare-walled loft, shafts of late-afternoon light cut through dusty windows. The hardwood floor, once shiny and well-kept, was now scuffed from disuse. Zara sank onto the floor, pulling the torn invitation kit out once more. She stared at the pieces, her chest tight, and realized the invitation wasn't just a summons to a wedding. It was a gauntlet thrown at her feet. The room felt too small, the air too thick. She pressed herself against the wall and whispered, "I'm not coming." Her voice cracked as she crawled to the center of the floor and curled up like a fallen star. The grief settled in her bones, and for the first time since the breakup, she allowed herself the luxury of despair. In the hush of the empty studio, Zara clenched her torn invitation, the pieces of her broken past, and made a vow. She would rise again on her own terms. The wedding in Santorini would proceed without her blessing. But her story, her new story, was only just beginning. For days, Zara existed in near silence. She barricaded herself in her studio loft, the same space where she once danced in blissful abandon. Now the only movement was the pale light shifting across dusty floorboards. She ate nothing but sips of water, her body too numb for hunger. No dance, no conversation, just a quiet loneliness that twisted like barbed wire in her chest. Her phone lay abandoned on the side table, notifications piling up, well wishes from friends, follow-ups on her audition confirmation, even a text from the filmmaker who had reached out. But she refused all messages, as if each ring was another crack in her fragile composure. She had no words left. Each morning, Zara woke to the echo of her own breath. The once vibrant canvases she used for choreography sketches wilted on the walls. Her point shoes, taped to the bar, lay untouched. Pictures of her triumphant audition reels played over and over in her mind, now tainted by the memory of Noah's betrayal. She tried to stand, to move, but pain radiated through her limbs, an acute ache born of grief and self-reproach. Instead, she spent hours tracing the maps of her life on sticky notes. Paris, New York, Seoul, destinations of promise that now felt like distant mirages. She crumpled each note before day's end, the motions echoing the violence in her heart. At night, she curled into a fetal position on the cold floor, tears sliding unchecked down her cheeks. In the darkness, she pressed her palms to her temples and let out a silent scream, a scream that reverberated through the empty loft, pushing back against the walls that held her captive. No sound emerged, but the urgency in her body demanded release. Occasionally, she would open her laptop and watch clips of her viral dance short, images of her leaping across sunlit stages, arms outstretched in defiance of sorrow. Those moments glimmered like distant stars. She longed to reach them, but the weight of her broken heart kept her grounded. She stopped checking her reflection in the mirror. The face that stared back at her was pale, eyes rimmed with red, hair unkempt, a body that had forgotten how to stand tall. The dancer within her felt exiled, her wings clipped by cruelty. Days folded into each other until Zara could no longer remember the sunrise. Her world had shrunk to these four walls. Yet in the hush of that self-imposed exile, something began to stir, a tiny ember glowing beneath smothering ashes. She didn't recognize it at first, but each time she pressed her fingertips to her chest, she felt a faint warmth, a reminder of the fire she once carried. One morning, she woke and realized she had not cried. The tears had run dry. She sat up, heart thudding, and exhaled as if shedding a lifetime of sorrow. The silence had proven hollow. Now, in the hush, she sensed a door opening, an opportunity to reclaim her voice, her movement, her life. For the first time in weeks, Zara stood. Her feet touched the cool wood, and she closed her eyes, gathering the shattered pieces of herself. A silent scream had ripped her soul apart, but now, she would find the words to stitch it back together. Zara's loft smelled of dust and old wood when her phone vibrated sharply on the table beside her. Startled, she stared at the screen. Documentary inquiry. An unknown number. Her finger hesitated before she swiped to answer. Hello. Her voice cracked, rusty from disuse. Hi, is this Zara Matthews? Asked a calm, enthusiastic voice. I'm Selena Ruiz, a documentary filmmaker. I came across your audition story online, and I think your journey, from hope to heartbreak to rebirth, deserves a wider audience. Zara blinked, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. I don't know what to say. Selena continued, undeterred. I know it's been a rough few months, but your resilience, turning pain into art, has inspired thousands. I'd like to film a short dance documentary showcasing your comeback. No fluff, just raw truth. Zara's chest tightened. She glanced around the dormancy of her studio. Scuffed floors, powdered bars, crumpled sketches. A documentary? The idea both terrified and excited her. Could she stand under scrutiny again? Yet, the thought of sharing her story felt like a lifeline. Where would it be filmed? Zara asked softly. Here, at your studio, if you're comfortable, and possibly a few outdoor locations, symbolic spaces of your journey. We'll work around your schedule. No pressure. Silence stretched. Zara drew in a shaky breath. I'll think about it. I understand, Selena said kindly, but I believe this film could help you, and others who faced betrayal, to see that you can rise again. Let me know by tomorrow. Zara ended the call and sat in the sudden hush of her loft, her mind buzzing. A documentary meant cameras, crew, exposure, the very thing she'd fled when her heart broke. But it also meant reclaiming her narrative, telling the world she was more than Noah's cast-off fiancé. That night, she lay awake considering the offer. She thought of the silent scream she had unleashed, the emptiness that had nearly swallowed her. She recalled her grandmother's voice. Your story can light the way for someone else. By morning, she had decided. She sent Selena a text. I'm in. Almost immediately, a response pinged. Fantastic. We'll start next week. Get ready to dance your truth. For the first time in months, adrenaline stirred in her veins. She rummaged through her dance bag, pulling out her tattered rehearsal notes and point shoes. The camera lens would capture her vulnerability and her strength. Over the next days, crew arrived. A small team of 2 camera operators, a sound engineer, and Selena with her gentle confidence. They set up lights and microphones, spoke of shot lists, of capturing raw, unfiltered emotion. Zara cycled through nerves and exhilaration, rehearsing choreography that mirrored heartbreak in slow, weighted movements, and sequences that soared with hope. On filming day, Zara stepped onto the studio floor as the cameras rolled. Each glide across the boards, each controlled fall. She danced not just for audition panels, but for every wound that had shaped her. As the lens followed her, Selena's voice prompted, Show me the moment you found your fire again. Zara closed her eyes, inhaled, and let the music carry her. The cameras clicked softly as she surrendered to the choreography of healing. In that moment, under the glare of cameras and the warmth of her own resolve, Zara danced her way back to life. The documentary short premiered online with modest fanfare, a link shared on Selena's filmmaking page, then reposted by Amina and other supporters. Zara watched nervously as view counts ticked upward. 10, 50, 100, and then thousands. Comments poured in. Beautifully raw. Your story moves me. Thank you for showing strength. Riding the wave of attention, Zara updated her TikTok with a 30-second clip of her signature ballet movement, a sequence of sweeping port de bras leading into a powerful grand jeté. She captioned it simply, From heartbreak to rebirth. #Dance Your Story. Within hours, the clip went viral. 100,000 views, then 500,000. Messages flooded her inbox, dancers sharing their tragedies, survivors of betrayal finding hope in her resilience, brands offering collaboration. A casting director from a contemporary company in Seoul reached out, praising her authenticity and inviting her to perform at an upcoming gala. Zara spent the next days invigorated by the surge of interest. She immersed herself in rehearsals, refining her 30-second routine into a 4-minute solo that charted her journey. The hollow ache of betrayal in slow, weighted steps, the silent scream embodied in sharp, staccato movements, and finally, the triumphant rise in a radiant sequence of leaps and turns. Selena's team returned to film the evolution, capturing Zara's newfound confidence, her laughter returning as she shared creative ideas. The studio felt electric, each angle of the camera a testament to how far she'd come. A sense of purpose pulsed in the air. This was more than a comeback. It was a declaration of self. On the evening of her first public performance since the breakup, Zara took the small stage of a downtown black box theater. The space held 100 seats. Every chair was filled. A hush fell as the lights dimmed. Soft piano chords began, and Zara stepped into the glow, her body poised, her gaze steady. She opened with the weighted movements of her despair, arms curved low, torso bowed, a solemn homage to her broken past. As the music shifted, her movements grew sharper, defiant, each beat a drum of reclamation. Then, in a burst of energy, she leapt into her grand jeté, crossing the stage with radiant joy. The audience gasped, some rising to their feet. When the final note faded, Zara stood center stage, breathless and triumphant. The applause rolled like thunder. Tears stung her eyes as she took her bows, absorbing the ovation that celebrated not just her talent but her courage. Backstage, Selena hugged her. "You did it," she whispered. Zara's smile shone with gratitude. She realized that dancing again wasn't merely a return, it was a rebirth. 2 weeks later, an email arrived with the subject line, "Invitation, Seoul International Dance Gala." Zara's heart stuttered. A gala in Seoul, an international stage she had only dreamed of. She clicked it open. A renowned contemporary company admired Selena's documentary and Zara's viral dance short. They requested her presence as a guest performer on October 10th, 2025, at the Seoul Art Center. Travel and accommodation were arranged. Zara sank into her chair, mind whirling. This was more than vindication. It was the realization that her story, born of heartbreak, had resonated across continents. She reached for her phone and called Amina. "I'm going to Seoul," she breathed. Amina's joyous laugh crackled through the line. "That's incredible. You're unstoppable." Over the next month, Zara prepared meticulously. She curated a 4-minute solo that encapsulated her journey. The opening hush of sorrow, the piercing staccato of anger, the embers of hope fanned into flame, and the final exultant leaps that soared beyond pain. She practiced at dawn, training every muscle, refining each transition until it gleamed with authenticity. When departure day arrived, Zara boarded the flight to Seoul with a mixture of nerves and exhilaration. She carried her passport, pointe shoes, and a heart brimming with anticipation. Over 7,000 miles away from the betrayal that had nearly broken her, she felt the soft pulse of possibility. The gala hall glittered under crystal chandeliers. Critics, patrons, and fellow artists filled velvet seats. Zara waited in the wings, pulsing to the thrum of the opening act. When her cue came, she stepped into the spotlight. The auditorium hushed. A single spotlight traced her as she began. Her movements told a story universal in its truth. Anguish transformed into power, silence shattered by expression. The audience watched, rapt, as she flew across the stage in a final grand jeté that seemed to suspend time. When her feet touched down, the lights dimmed, and a lone beam remained on her triumphant silhouette. Then applause erupted, thunderous, unending. Critics rose, calling for an encore. In the wings, a prominent dance journalist approached her, pen poised. "Your performance was electric," he said. "We'd love to feature you in our next issue." In that moment, Zara realized that the world had witnessed her rebirth. No longer was she defined by abandonment or sacrifice. She was a dancer whose story transcended heartbreak, whose artistry spoke across languages and cultures. As she took her final bow, tears of joy shining in her eyes, Zara smiled not for anyone else, but for herself. Under that global spotlight, she stood whole again, proof that when one door of betrayal closes, another of opportunity can open to reveal a horizon beyond imagination. Zara's rental car rumbled across Santorini's winding cliffs, the Aegean Sea a swirl of turquoise beneath whitewashed terraces. Atop the island's famed Blue Dome Chapel, guests in pastel gowns and crisp suits mingled beneath archways dripping with bougainvillea. She'd flown in uninvited the night before, trading airfare for the chance to confront the union that had sealed her erasure. As the midday sun baked the courtyard, her pulse hammered an unsteady rhythm, equal parts dread and defiance propelling her forward. In the passenger seat, her phone vibrated. She snatched it up, heart in her throat. A message from Bree Carter glowed on the screen. "You ruined him. He still watches your videos every night." The words landed like ice, confirming the whispered rumors that had haunted her since Barcelona. Noah's private obsession with her dance footage, a secret reverence poured through betrayal's lens. Anger bloomed, and she abandoned the car, heels clicking over sun-bleached stones as she advanced toward the ceremony. Bouquets of white orchids framed the entrance as Zara slipped past a cluster of influencers live streaming the event. Beneath a pergola of fairy lights, a string quartet tuned their violins. At the altar, Noah, immaculately dressed in ivory, took Bree's hand. The officiant began reciting vows, but Zara's steps carried her onto the marble aisle, her crimson dress ablaze against the sea-sky horizon. Heads turned. Gasps rippled through the congregation like wind through chimes. Noah's eyes widened, guilt flooding his expression. Bree's lace veil fluttered as she turned. Zara raised her chin and called out, voice clear despite the stunned silence. "Noah, you owe me the truth." The officiant stammered. Guests murmured, clutching champagne flutes. A hush fell, heavier than the Greek sun at noon. Zara held up her phone, displaying Bree's text, and recited its cruelty aloud. The courtyard froze, promises shattered in a single syllable. Bree stepped forward, disbelief etched on her face. "This is my wedding." But Zara's gaze never wavered. She walked down the aisle, each step a release. "I refuse to be your secret anymore." At the exit, she paused and whispered, "I free us both," before disappearing into the maze of alabaster alleys. The chapel bell tolled behind her, a requiem for a vow she would never bless. Zara sank onto a plush velvet sofa in her Vienna apartment as Selena's email blinked open. Ready for liftoff? Her pulse raced as she clicked publish on YouTube, unleashing the full-length documentary. She gave up her dreams for him. Then he married someone else. Months of raw confessionals, rehearsals bathed in spotlights, and intimate interviews, now streamed live to an unknown audience. She closed her eyes, bracing for the world's verdict. Within minutes, her phone buzzed, 1,000 views. Side by side, Zara and Amina watched the count ascend. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Each number a heartbeat of solidarity. Comments flooded in. "I needed this today. Your courage gave me hope. Thank you for sharing your story." Tears blurred Zara's vision as she scrolled. Each message was a lifeline, a reminder that her pain had ignited something healing in others. By sunset, views topped 1 million. Notifications chimed relentlessly. A Brazilian dance festival seeking a masterclass, a TEDx Lisbon invitation, a contemporary company in Sydney offering a gala performance. An email from a global sports brand lit up her screen. "Your journey embodies resilience. Will you be our ambassador?" Mock-ups showed Zara's silhouette mid-leap on Times Square billboards. She imagined her story emblazoned across cityscapes, a triumphant echo of every early morning rehearsal. The next morning, Zara met PR agent Martin Lee beneath Vienna's ornate frescoes. He unfurled a leather portfolio of brand proposals, Netflix series offers, and feature film possibilities. "Your narrative transcends dance," he said, voice measured. "It speaks to anyone who's dared to rebuild." She examined glossy mock-ups, subway ads in Tokyo, magazine spreads in Vogue Italia, TED Circuit invitations. Each page whispered that her story had become global currency. That evening, on her balcony overlooking a sea of rooftops, Zara sipped chamomile tea while her phone pinged again. "Interview on Good Morning Germany tomorrow?" She smiled, the city's lamplight dancing in her eyes. The global premiere was not the finale. It was the overture to new chapters. With a deep breath, she whispered into the night air, "This is only the beginning." Noah slumped into the suede armchair of his Manhattan office, city lights flickering beyond the window like distant applause. An email from Bree's mother had arrived that morning. "Watch Zara's documentary before brunch." He hovered over the YouTube link, dread coiling in his gut, then clicked play, muting the audio. The screen revealed Zara's silhouette, dancing through heartbreak and triumph, her story laid bare in captions. His chest tightened with every silent frame. Scenes of her trembling in early rehearsals, confessions of his betrayal in Barcelona, and her soaring performance at the Seoul Gala replayed on loop. He watched Zara's every arabesque and grand jeté with a hollow ache, each movement a testament to his absence. A lump lodged in his throat as he saw her radiant final bow, the crowning moment of her rebirth. In the hush, his regrets roared. A soft knock on the door startled him. His assistant, Elena, peered in. "Mr. Smith, investors are waiting. You should rest." Her concern weighed on him. He forced a nod but waved her away. eyes never leaving the screen. Zoe's documentary crescendoed in captions. I found my wings. He pressed pause, tears slipping unbidden. His phone buzzed with a text from Bree. Our anniversary dinner is Saturday. Confirm. He typed yes, but paused. The so-called love that propelled their union now felt like ashes. He replayed Zara's final scene, her triumphant gaze to an adoring crowd, then dialed her number. It rang unanswered. He left a hushed message. Zara, I'm sorry. If you can, call me. Silence consumed him as the city's roar continued beyond his walls. Finally, he unmuted the video. Zara's voice, firm and clear, filled the room. I will never dim my light again. He watched, unmoving, as the woman he lost danced into her own destiny, one he could not reclaim. Sunlight wove lace-like patterns across Zara's Viennese hardwood floor as she sat at her walnut desk, ivory stationery laid before her. Outside, church bells chimed the hour. Inside, a hush carried the gravity of what she was about to do. She uncapped a golden fountain pen and began. Dear Noah, words carry weight, far more than we ever gave them credit for when we whispered promises under spotlights. You asked me to build your future. I asked you to believe in mine. Instead, your vows went to another, and I was left to reclaim my wings alone. Her pen paused at the memory of Santorini's whitewashed chapel, her red dress blazing through the haze of betrayal. She pressed on. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but so I can learn to dance free of regret. This letter is my goodbye. Tears fell onto the page, smudging her final flourish. She folded the letter and placed it in the antique fireplace she'd installed as a symbol of transformation. A single match ignited the paper. The flames curled her words into ash. A video call from Amina illuminated the screen. How do you feel? Zara watched the ashes drift. Free, she whispered, voice steady. She ended the call and stepped away. The charred remains a silent testament to her rebirth. No envelope, no mailbox, just a quiet knowledge that her closure had been claimed in motion, not in ink. Backstage at the Vienna Opera House, Zara closed her eyes as the orchestra tuned beneath the crimson curtains. Tonight, she premiered Requiem of Wings, a solo she'd choreographed from heartbreak to triumph. A silver tiara, Selena's gift, rested in her curls, glinting like stardust. The stage manager's voice crackled through the headset. Places. She stepped into the spotlight, the audience washed in darkness. A lone cello launched into the opening bars, resonant as a heartbeat. Zara's movements began weighted and introspective, each ply a homage to grief. Then the music swelled, and she transformed, limbs unfurling into grand jetés that soared overhead. Her silhouette cut a fierce arc against the velvet backdrop, every turn a manifesto of reclaiming power. Mid-performance, she executed a series of controlled collapses, knees grazing the floor, torso folding, in a moment of vulnerability. Then she rose, arms bursting skyward, her gaze fixed on a point beyond the footlights. The final crescendo found her vaulting into a triumphant develop, suspended in time. The house held its breath. Silence fractured into thunderous applause. Zara took her bows, tears gleaming in the spotlight, as the audience leapt to their feet. Backstage, a journalist thrust a microphone forward. Zara, you own that stage. How does it feel? She smiled, cheeks flushed. It feels like coming home, she replied. In the foyer, Amina pressed a chilled flute of champagne into her hand. To your spotlight, she toasted. Zara clinked glasses, heart swelling. To every dancer who found her power, she said. That night, social feeds buzzed. Zara conquers Vienna, legendary comeback. But as she scrolled past the praise, her smile softened. This celebration wasn't for Noah's apology or the wedding she'd crashed. It was for herself. Under that radiant spotlight, Zara stood whole again, a testament to the truth that when you dare to reclaim your own story, you illuminate the world. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, and share. Also turn on the bell to get more of our videos. See you in the next story.